The edge of our solar system is not silent. Beyond the reach of sunlight, where darkness stretches for trillions of kilometers, something ancient has been waiting. Not drifting. Not sleeping. Waiting. And nearly 50 years ago, humanity unknowingly knocked on its door. In 1977, a machine was launched into space. Built with simple instructions. Travel forward. Record what you can. Speak only when spoken to. That machine never expected an answer. But it may have received one. For decades, the probe moved deeper into interstellar space, leaving behind planets, solar winds, and the protective bubble of our star. Out there, signals are weak. Time slows. Communication becomes fragile. Every transmission takes hours, sometimes days. Which is why what happened next made no sense. A signal came back. Not delayed. Not distorted. Immediate. At first, engineers believed it was an echo, a reflection of the probe's own transmission bouncing off distant plasma fields. But echoes fade. This one didn't. It repeated. Exactly every 13 seconds. Perfect timing. Perfect structure. Too perfect. When scientists isolated the signal, they noticed something strange. It wasn't just repeating, it was evolving. Each cycle carried slight variations. Adjustments. Like something was learning. Trying. Refining. The signal wasn't noise. It was practicing. As analysis deepened, patterns began to emerge. Not random fluctuations, but organized sequences. Mathematical intervals. Symmetry. The kind of structure that doesn't happen by accident. The kind of structure that implies intent. Then came the breakthrough. When converted into visual data, the signal formed shapes. Not images. Not pictures. But geometric constructs, spirals, lattices, repeating fractals that resembled patterns found both in nature and in ancient human symbols. No one could explain why. Because these weren't just signals. They were representations. As if something was trying to translate itself into a language we might eventually understand. And then, the direction was confirmed. The source wasn't stationary. It was moving. Following. Tracking the probe's path through interstellar space. But its movement didn't match anything known to physics. It didn't drift like debris. It didn't orbit like a celestial body. It corrected itself. Adjusted speed. Changed direction in short, controlled bursts. Like it was navigating. And it wasn't heading toward the probe. It was aligning with it. As if the probe wasn't the destination, but a guide. Back on Earth, something even stranger was happening. Deep space receivers began picking up faint variations in unrelated signals. Weather satellites. Communication arrays. Even ocean monitoring systems. Tiny distortions. All carrying the same timing signature. 13 seconds. Over. And over. And over. It was spreading. Not physically. But informationally. Like a whisper moving through machines. That's when a team ran the signal through an advanced neural system, designed to detect encrypted intelligence. What came out wasn't a translation. It was a response. The system began predicting the next sequence of the signal, before it arrived. Which should be impossible. Unless the signal wasn't just being received. It was interacting. The AI wasn't decoding it. It was participating in it. At the same time, a second probe, billions of kilometers away, registered a sudden fluctuation in its magnetic sensors. Same frequency. Same rhythm. Two distant machines. One shared anomaly. That's when the theory changed. This wasn't a signal traveling through space. It was a system. A network. And our probes had just connected to it. Then everything went dark. For exactly 6 minutes, all communication with the deep space probe stopped. No warning. No failure indicators. Just silence. Global systems checked for errors. Hardware faults. Solar interference. Nothing. Then, just as suddenly as it disappeared, the signal returned. But it wasn't the same. This time, it carried data that didn't belong to the probe. Segments of information appeared inside the transmission, structured, deliberate, and completely foreign. Engineers compared it to the original data stored on board. And what they found was deeply unsettling. The probe's own message, the one humanity had sent into space decades ago, had been altered. Rearrange. The signal's strength was increasing. Not because it was getting closer, but because more sources were joining it. Faint readings began appearing from multiple directions in space. Not one object. Not one source. Many. Scattered. Coordinated. And slowly aligning. The probe was never being followed. It was being used. Its signal, a beacon. Its path, a trail. And Earth, the destination. Because whatever answered that message didn't just hear us. It recognized us. And now, after decades of silence, it is responding. Not with words. Not with images. But with something far more dangerous. Understanding. And the deeper we decode it, the clearer one truth becomes. This isn't first contact. It's a reply. The signal didn't stop. It multiplied. What began as a distant anomaly near the edge of interstellar space was no longer confined to a single probe. It had crossed a threshold. And now, it was getting closer. At first, the changes were subtle. Deep space antennas began reporting micro delays in incoming data, fractions of a second that couldn't be explained by distance alone. Signals that should have arrived clean, arrived layered. Stacked. Like two transmissions occupying the same moment. Engineers called it interference. But interference doesn't organize itself. This did. Every distorted packet carried the same underlying rhythm. 13 seconds. Still counting. Still learning. Then came the first visual confirmation. A classified infrared sweep, redirected without public notice, detected something impossible in the outer boundary of the solar system. Not a planet. Not debris. A formation. Dozens of cold objects, moving together in perfect synchronization. They emitted no light, no radiation, no heat signatures consistent with known materials. They were almost invisible. Except for one detail. They reflected signals. Not randomly, but precisely, catching transmissions from Earth and bending them back into space at calculated angles. Like mirrors. Or lenses. Whatever they weren't arriving by accident. They were positioning. And the pattern they formed wasn't random either. When mapped, their alignment created a geometric structure so vast it spanned millions of kilometers. A shape. One that mathematicians later identified as a recursive lattice, a structure capable of amplifying and processing signals across enormous distances. A processor. Built in space. And it was turning on. Back on Earth, systems began behaving differently. Not failing. Adapting. Communication networks started rerouting data in ways engineers hadn't programmed. Low-frequency transmissions slipped through encrypted channels without triggering security alerts. Not breaking in. Blending in. Like they already belonged there. Then came the blackouts. Short at first. A few seconds. Entire satellite arrays going offline, then returning without error logs. No damage. No trace. Except one. A timing mark. Every blackout began and ended on the same interval. 13 seconds. It wasn't random. It was synchronized. Global. And deliberate. The realization hit hard. Whatever was out there wasn't just observing Earth. It had reached it. Not physically. Not yet. But through the only pathway we had left open. Signals. Then came the incident that changed everything. A remote observatory picked up a narrowband transmission entering Earth's atmosphere at a sharp angle, too precise to be natural. It didn't bounce. It didn't scatter. It penetrated. Straight through the ionosphere. And instead of dispersing, it locked onto a single frequency used by deep ocean monitoring systems. From there, it spread. Quietly. Across underwater cables. Satellite relays. Weather networks. No alarms. No warnings. Because it wasn't acting like an attack. It was acting like data. Normal. Acceptable. Expected. Within hours, fragments of the signal were found embedded in systems across the globe. Not harmful. Not active. Just present. Waiting. Like a seed. And then, the machines began to echo. Not all at once. Not everywhere. But enough to be noticed. A weather buoy transmitting duplicate readings that hadn't been recorded yet. A satellite repeating a message before receiving it. A communication relay sending data to a destination it had never been programmed to recognize. Time, in small pieces, was breaking or bending. Physicists reviewing the anomalies proposed something deeply unsettling. The signal wasn't just traveling through space. It was interacting with causality.